Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about metabolic capacity because I see a lot of people talking about this lately, and to be honest, I haven't watched a single YouTube video or read a single article on this that people are putting out. I don't want to taint my own stance on this by seeing what other people are telling you, but the idea I'm getting from some people is that there's some confusion about what's going on with this whole metabolic capacity thing that a lot of people are pushing. And a lot of people are thinking this is talking about dramatically increasing your resting metabolic rate. And I think rather than call it metabolic capacity, we need to address it more in terms of work capacity, because what we're talking about here is the ability to do more work and to burn more energy through your workload. And the reality is the human body is very, very resistant to increasing metabolic rate. Now, there are a whole host of evolutionary reasons in evolutionary biology in our recent past as a species that account for a lot of this. I don't want to get into all that today, other than to say that your body is resistant to gain muscle mass. It is resistant to make dramatic changes in your resting metabolic rate. You have to work very, very hard to see significant differences there. By significant, I mean a few hundred calories. And very, very few people are going to pull that off. So when we talk about this metabolic capacity, here's what I mean. Let's give a classic example of how someone could increase their total TDEE, or total daily energy expenditure, by 1,000 or more calories per day over the course of a year. Now, a lot of people will talk about, well, increasing work and increasing carbs will change things like thyroid function. It'll increase things like T4 to T3 conversion, which will give you better thyroid function, increase metabolism. All right, people need to forget that to a large extent. That is a very, very small thing. You can maybe increase that enough to boost your metabolic rate 5% if you work really hard. You eat a lot of carbs, you do a lot of activity, you can increase that enough to change your metabolism maybe 5%. Well, if your resting metabolic rate, your BMR, is 2,000 calories, that's only an extra 100 calories. 5%, that's 100 calories. 100 calories a day is not very massive. The same way when we get into muscle mass. Muscle mass is at the very best a pound of muscle, and it's going to take you a long time to build 10 or 20 pounds of muscle. You're either going to have to be a complete noob to do it in a relatively short time, meaning a year or less, or you're going to have to go on steroids. And even then, you're not going to keep repeating that on steroids. So even then, you're looking at maybe 10 calories or less per pound of muscle to your resting metabolic rate. Well, 20 pounds of muscle, that's no more than 200 calories. So right there, you're only seeing, in a best case, by manipulating all available factors, as a noob even, increasing your base metabolic rate 300 calories a day. Now that might seem like a lot, but it really isn't. That's half a cup of rice per day. That's not dramatic. So when we talk about it from work capacity, let's look at someone who goes on, say, something like my novice program. Let's say they've been running what we call a body part split or a bro split, where they've only been doing legs once a week. So they're not getting a big EPOC effect or metabolic effect, or not increasing strength very quickly in their legs. They're not getting a lot of muscle in their legs. They're not seeing a daily elevated metabolic rate from it. So a lot of times I'll have someone go on my novice program, they'll come to me and they'll have a TDEE of 2,400 calories. This was a perfect example of someone I talked to early on when I first put the program out, who started it and had to start adjusting their calories. I was helping individual people at that time. As soon as he went on the program, he started losing weight. He had to increase calories because of the change. He had to go from 2,400 up to like 2,600 almost immediately to start making very small changes in gains, because he started burning through more calories within 2 to 3 weeks. Because of the improved squat. His squat started going up fast. He was squatting 3 times a week, doing heavy back work 3 times a week. He was burning through more calories through the EPOC effect. And you start factoring that in. Okay, you go from, say, doing a high volume of leg work once a week to doing a moderate volume with a heavy workload, increasing it faster 3 times a week. And then the same with the back work and everything. What happens is that your caloric expenditure, even your average weekly expenditure, is going to go up a bit. It might go up a couple hundred calories. Now, what happens if you start with doing 60 or 70 kilos for 5 sets of 5 on it? Over the course of a year, you build that to the 140. I tell people I'd like to see healthy men. I've already given that. I'm not going to cover all the specs of who specifically, but let's say the people who fall in that category should be hitting 140 kilos for 5 sets of 5. Well, you've gone from 70 to 140. You've doubled the weight you're moving for 5 sets of 5. what sort of effect is that going to have on your total workload, your total EPOC, which is your post-training elevated metabolism as a result of the training and repairing it. That's going to make a big difference. The thing is, at the end of that year, you're probably going to have put on 15 or 20 pounds of muscle. That's another 20 pounds of muscle. A lot of it's in places like the legs. You're going to burn more calories once you start moving. When you're not talking about BMR, but once you start moving around. So you're burning more calories during the lifting, burning more calories between the sessions as a result of recovering from it. You're carrying more muscle mass. So when you're walking around doing your day-to-day activities, you are burning through more calories. Now, on top of that, you have increased things like the thyroid function, maybe 5%, because I want people to bulk on relatively high carbs, but a very, very small surplus. And over time, you've increased that. And what I also tell people, and this is something I've been saying for over a year now on this program, I didn't say that originally, but I want people to be doing a little bit of cardio on the off days. Build up on some less cardio 3 days a week. It's good for your overall health. It's good for your recovery. Not HIIT, but LISS, low intensity cardio. And if you started at 15 minutes at, say, the intensity level 3 on your bike, you're burning through X amount of calories. Well, what happens when you increase that intensity? Because as you get stronger in your legs from the squats, your work capacity on cardio improves. This is why even marathon runners and Tour de France cyclists, their coaches all have them do heavy squats and progress on them because it improves work capacity. It's easier to exert the same amount of force. You got stronger muscles. So now you take someone who's got bigger thigh muscles that burn through more calories, bigger thighs and calves. They can produce more force as they're going, and before long they're up to doing, say, 30 minutes on those 3 days on that same setting on the bike, that setting of number 3, and then they decide to increase it because they're getting stronger. They eventually push it up to 4, they push it to 5, they push it up to, say, setting number 6 out of 10, and then they continue to build their capacity until they're doing an hour 3 times a week at a intensity level that is twice what they started for 4 times the volume. They're effectively burning through 8 times the energy during their cardio sessions, during a single cardio session. So you start factoring all of that in. You start factoring in the total energy turnover of the higher metabolism, the bigger thigh muscles, carrying that around when you're at work, walking, doing things. If you have a job where you're standing, the increased calorie expenditure from the training, the increased EPOC from the training, the slightly higher turnover as a result of the thyroid, and then the fact that their actual cardiovascular capacity and their work capacity because of their strength as well has dramatically increased their energy expenditure on their 3 cardio sessions a week. Before long, a 2,400 maintenance calories starts turning into, by the end of that year, 25, 26, 2,700 calories. You'll see people whose metabolic rate has only changed, their base metabolic rate's only changed a few hundred calories, but their total energy turnover will have gone up as much as 11, 12, 1,300 calories as a result of the total cumulative activity. So their metabolism itself has only increased a small amount, maybe 15%, but their total energy turnover through all the cumulative activities, the work capacity, the full metabolic capacity of it all has increased dramatically. And this person is now eating foods on a cut that they would have been gaining weight on at one time. They can actually cut, this person can now probably cut easily on 3,000 calories when before they could bulk on 2,500, 2,600 inside of a year. And that is the way this works. It's this total cumulative effect, and particularly when you start gaining a lot of strength and are squatting at a fairly high frequency, and you're gaining a lot of strength and size in your legs, when you start adding cardio to that and that cardio capacity goes up, that's when that caloric expenditure starts to really accelerate. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go. Oh.